Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's November 29th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And started out looking at our daily chart here. You can see we're still inside this range. You can see we traded down to the midline and kind of bounced off that today, but we also bounced off this support. So it's possible we could bounce higher from here. We may just still remain in this trading range. It's just hard to say, but I will say as of now, we closed inside this range, and so it looks like this support's still in play. We're not really rocketing out of there, but it was kind of a range type day today. We traded down, but we closed way off the lows here, so we had a little bit of a rally. Um, but we closed way off the highs as well. So it's just kind of a neutral type day, although we spent a good bit of the morning trading down, and then we just kind of chopped weekly higher and took some of that back, closing off the lows. So again, I think that's a bounce off the midline, a bounce off the support, and so that's where we stand. But we'll flip over to the intraday chart, the 2000 tick chart, and take a look. And I will say real quickly, if you think you hear a cat in the background at my office here, you do. Um, my mother's cat, and so because of her situation, I'm stuck babysitting this cat some, and it had to go to the vet today. So rather than have to take it all the way home and come back, I just brought it to the office with me, and she hasn't made a peep the whole day until I started this video. And so now she's meowing in the background. I don't know what she wants, but hopefully it won't be distracting. You'll just have to bear with me. I apologize. But anyway, let me flip over to the 2000 tick chart. We'll go through the trades, and we'll try to wrap it up pretty quickly. I won't drag it out today or anything. So, okay, here we are. You can see there was a larger two-tiered channel working down, and obviously this is moved. Sometimes these larger ones, I think it has to do with how you anchor it up here. If you don't anchor it just right, it will move on you. But anyway, sometimes they move and sometimes they don't move at all, so it's really strange. But anyway, you can clearly see that midline working down through there. Bounced off the low down here, and we got just outside that before the close, then closed back down. Closed off, or actually we closed on up near the high here, and then we've traded down since the market's reopened. But there it is. I saw a spike in channel here early, and then we got the break, moved to a new low, and then we traded up, got the break, moved to a new high, traded down, break, new low, and we're just kind of going sideways here after that point. Um, this was a pretty nice rally here. I marked this off here. Uh, the way the market's been going lately, any kind of high volatility news, especially that's kind of stems around inflation and consumer confidence, something like that around inflation, how people perceive the economy right now, I would be flat going into those. So you can see there was a little bit of fluctuation here, not a whole lot, but enough that I mean you don't really know what's going to happen. So I would just be flat 15 minutes or so going into those. If you're playing a runner, maybe you play the runner, but if you were playing a runner here, you were probably short, and you can see you would have got stopped out. It would have taken your runner, and so you're better off just to be flat. Um, that's my opinion anyway. So somebody else actually sent me a chart today, and they drew their channel something like. Actually, I think they drew it. Actually, let's start over here. I think they drew it like this, something like that, and I don't think it changes anything. You still get your break here at the same on the same move, and you still get this move outside here, and then a move to a new low. So um, I don't think it really changes anything other than you might have taken this short here because it's off the key entry point. It's just a first entry though, so it is way away from the midline. I mean the EMA here, and but you could still treat it like a breakout here to break out of the blue channel. So if you saw it way down here, you saw this extra. Really, what it looks like is it looks like the channel just flattened out. And that would explain why we bounced here some, other than we still have the midline there kind of affecting prices. So I don't think it really changes anything. I think you still end up with the same at the same spot. So if you saw this extra channel, yeah, I would say it's valid. So for that trader, I told him I thought it was valid. But let's zoom in here, talk about the trades, and get this day moving here. Um, Notice we were coming into 7 o'clock. We've been trading down, and then we just kind of started working sideways here, and you could clearly see it looks like a spike down. So when you got this first couple of swings, I'd draw that trend line, and when we came back to it here. Really, what I would look at this at is like a triple test. You could also call this a lower high that confirms this trend line right here. It's a really bearish bar, so I like going short there. You don't know that it's going to drop that quick and that strong, but this was a really good move. It might have been all you needed today. Of course, we make a low, and then we make a first entry, and then you get a second entry, and this big, huge bearish bar. I don't know. I mean, you'd probably be okay trading this on the engulfing bar, although you've already moved a long way by that point. So personally, I think I would wait for this to close, and when it closed that bearish, just go short one tick below that. You still got plenty of room to this last low, and that turns out to be a really good trade. We do come back and test that same price level again, and it holds. That's just a first entry though, but a few minutes later you get a second entry, and again, it's almost like a repeat pattern. I like going short one tick below that big bearish bar, drops on down again. You actually get a lower high here, but you're going short right into a triple bottom now. So I think you got to hold, and you can see it bounces pretty quickly. Comes back to the trend line, but the only problem with that is that that would leave this channel still in play right here. And so I don't think you want to go short into that trend line right there. I think you're better off to wait. And you do get a lower high here, but not a very good signal bar. You actually get a good signal bar, but it's an inside bar. So this is really your signal bar because it makes the swing high, and this is an inside bar, so you can't really trade that one. But it comes back yet again and gives you a triple test, but again, no signal bar. So there's just no setup there. It's a shame because it's right off the key entry point. You get a good move out of it, but you don't want to risk that. You need a better signal bar than that, and so I would wait on it. It drops on down, and then we're just kind of working sideways. This one is tempting. It bounces, you make your measured move here, and it closes inside, so you're probably going to bounce, but I would wait at least on a high or low. We're in this downtrend, so I don't think you want to go long there or anything. Comes back, and again, that's just a first entry. So wait on the lower high or second entry. You get a lower high here, but no signal bar, and see how quickly it bounces. And so now you got a channel where you got a break, you move to a new high, and you get that one more little push up, and then you break higher and fail and turn down. That's going to trap people. I kind of like actually entering on the engulfing bar here, but nothing wrong with waiting, and when you see that bearish bar, go short. And that turns out to be a pretty good little move down. We still don't get a new low, though. It bounces, kind of working sideways. I don't think you want to go long because you've already got your close outside this green channel and new high. And that's just the first entry. You do get another move higher here, but no signal bar. And of course, it runs up here, and you turn. I draw my trend line here, and notice how you try to go higher once, twice. The only problem is you're working sideways here, and it's too close to the lows. So still, I think you got to wait. It tries to go higher again, and then you get a lower high, and that's also a second entry short. It's a little bit sideways, but the fact that you're making lower highs each time, if it breaks lower there, it's going to take off. And we're still looking for a new low here, and you got a long way to go. And this turns out to be the trade of the day. I marked it green because of the support location, but I think there's reasons to consider that trade right there. And then we run down, and you really kind of get a repeat here. it really tries to go higher 3 times there, and you get another big bearish bar right off the key entry point, kind of a little triple test. Again, we do have a new low in place, so this could only go a tick or two lower and you get a break, but you're right off this key entry point, and that confirmed it. And that was a really strong move, so you could get some more movement like that. And if we're going to get a measured move similar to this first one, we got a little ways to go here. And you can see it runs down to that measured move, exactly bounces before it continues lower. And all we were doing, we were heading to the other side of the channel, which you may not know where that is quite yet. Although it wasn't too hard to find this midline, drawing this off these first 2 swings. So you might have had this early, you may not have. So it depends on your skill level and how good you are at reading the chart. But we made a couple of more swings lower here, but I think you've been too far away from the EMA and too far now. If you knew this was down here, there's a possibility. They're all just first entries, and a couple of them, the signal bars are no good either. So, but it runs down here, bounces, starts working higher, and again, you're just working sideways. And finally, you get a nice, let me zoom in here a little bit. You get a nice signal bar. The problem is there's not much room back to the highs across here. You're not really back to the trend line. I mean, we did break higher here and then come back and make a double, triple bottom. Really, it's a triple test. So maybe you take that trade, maybe you don't. I marked it green. It would have worked, but it's still a little aggressive. We work up here and we just start working sideways again. And notice we came right off the key entry point again. It holds twice. You know, we tested at least a couple of different times in there, 4 different bars, and it runs up, and then we actually trade lower, and it turns and goes higher and closes on its high. I like going long there. That's just a higher low breakout pullback. You know, sometimes you got to be careful with these, but it's a high, basically it's a higher low coming off this trend line. And really, we make a little move lower here than this bar, so you could call it a first entry, second entry. So you could call that a second entry. That's most likely going to trap people. The problem is it gaps here. Notice how it closes on its high, opens on its low, and just keeps going. And again, closes on its very high. You may not have caught that trade. If you could catch that trade, by all means, take it. And then we turn down off the highs, come right back down, and make a little double bottom and another nice signal bar right at the key entry point. I like that one. It's a quick, easy move, but it turns down and you get your break. And I didn't expect that, but it's still an easy move. So, and you get more than enough ticks there. You might have even got a little bit of a runner on that one, depending on how you played it. So, then we do trend lower here. I wouldn't try to take a short here. I would wait. This one is tempting because it's right off that key entry point. But it's just a first entry and you're going short right at the low, and you've already got a break or a closeout, a possible close outside here. And you can see it does take off, but unfortunately you don't get a chance to go long there. And you just have to kind of watch that one. It's one of those nice moves that you just don't get a setup on. But guess what it does? It runs up here to this key entry point, confirms it, then makes a lower high way away from the EMA. Big bearish bar. I like going short there. Unfortunately, you probably don't get a runner on this one, but it's still a nice trade. And it drops on down, and we just start working sideways here. There's another little trading range here. I just marked the highs on it, but it's really, you can see that right there. I did mark this in red though because it's a triple test. We expect prices to make a new low, and there's enough room, and it looks similar to a couple of other patterns we had over there. I went back and forth. I really wanted to make this one green, but that's a really strong move down. And I'm trying to go higher 3 times there. I just wish you had a little more, you know, this would be a lot better trade if you had more room to get out here, which you don't. You do have room before that low, but you could bounce off this support again. So that's the problem. And you can see it didn't go far after it made a new low, but it did make a new low and it bounced. And the only reason I say you'd be pretty sure you'd make a new low is because it's just such a strong sell off right there, right off a key entry point. And you would expect prices to maybe go to the midline. This is the main pattern, the bigger kind of aqua blue channel there. That's actually a cyan, and I just lightened it real light so it wouldn't be so dark, but it looks kind of like an aqua blue. And it does bounce. And notice what happens. You got a new low there. You make a first entry, you push through, you pull back, you get a second entry, and it fails almost instantly and reverses. I like, I'm sorry, I'm still fighting a little bit of a, this head cold I had. It's much better, but I'm not quite 100% yet. But anyway, you bounce here. I like that failure. It's a trap. Probably going to be an easy, scalp there at least, and you might get a runner there. So, and if you think you can hear a cat purr, and she's jumped up in my lap now. So y'all bear with me on this. I apologize. Uh, we we run up, we get a little bit of an overshoot there, and of course that leads to a break, and you do get a new high and a lower high. I didn't mark this one because everything's still above the EMA. If you'd had more room here, you might have traded this. Honestly, I don't know. I think it traded higher. It broke higher and then turned down. If it did, you might trade that on the engulfing bar because it's probably going to trap people to the long side. But I didn't see this one happen in real time, so I don't know. But it's a possibility, depending on how it played out. You might play it as an engulfing bar. But notice it runs down here, and then we come back, and it tries to go lower and fails, and then turns higher there. I did mark this was after 230. Notice you got up. This is basically a double top, so first entry, second entry. And a lot of times on these breaks, you'll get a couple of legs up. But the main thing is we weren't back to the upper side yet, and so there's a good chance we could be still headed higher here. And so that's the reason I like that one. You can tell it trapped people, and I don't know if you could have got in that trade. It moves real quickly. Notice it closes on its low or high and opens on its low and takes off. So I don't know if you'd have got in that one or not. I wasn't watching the chart when this last little bit happened here. So anyway, that's how I saw it today. Back out, look at it one more time. You can clearly see the big two-tiered channel. But you can see once we had these two legs down and then we had two legs up, and then we just kind of chopped sideways. So, and the channel still appears to be in play there. And it might even be that we never got a close outside because it could be more like that. It still fits down through here. Actually, we don't quite touch there. Yeah, but I would still say there's no convincing close outside. The channel's still in play. Of course, we're into the next day, and that could change everything. We don't usually, you can't pay much attention to this early overnight stuff regardless. So, but anyway, there it is. That's how I see it today. Quite a few trades in there, some decent ones. Some of them are more aggressive type trades. So, but there you should have been able to find. There was a couple of this early ones here were pretty good. A couple of those. So easy second entries in a downtrend. So we'll see where we're going here. Let's flip back over to the daily chart one more time. There it is, and you can see kind of a neutral type bar. Definitely not rejection off these lows or the midline. Maybe there's a rejection off that midline, but definitely not the lows of this range. And you can see we're trading lower now. Again, what you see right now has a little bearing in what we might see tomorrow. It could easily change considerably before tomorrow. So we'll see what tomorrow brings when we come in around 7 o'clock and kind of go from there. So, yeah, but it looks like we're still in this range as of now. So we'll see if that continues. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. and we'll see you next time.